5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, gang, and welcome back to Alien Protocols. I have a very special guest today. This is a person that I have recently met firsthand and spent a little time around, and have really just enjoyed the brain power and company of Hollis Polk. Hollis has an engineering degree from Princeton, a Harvard MBA, just to brag. She's a master practitioner in neurolinguistics, a certified hypnotherapist, and much more. She's been practicing psychic for over 30 years. Hollis, it's really a pleasure, and I appreciate you coming on the channel so much.
Thank you for having me.
We just had a really interesting experience in Joshua Tree. What was your experience? How did you feel about the whole trip?
Well, it was lovely. And for me, mostly what was lovely was the humans who all have their hearts in the right places. It was also really fun because I'm not used to this. Usually when we go out to make contact, there are however many pairs of eyes there are in the circle, and nobody's taking pictures or movies or whatever. And so what was probably the most fun for me was seeing the video the next day of all the stuff I didn't see. You know, I saw only what I could see in the sky, and some of it was because I didn't see because I was facing the wrong direction, and some of it was just stuff you literally couldn't see with your eyes. So that was really cool, like how much more was happening that I couldn't actually see.
Yeah, just out of our perception. It just reminds you in life how much is just out of your perception. You can be right there, but looking the wrong way or not have enough sensory experience. When I first saw the helicopter thing or the drone or whatever it was between those mountains doing that tight circle, I couldn't believe it. I was completely blown away. Completely blown away.
I was shocked too. Me too.
And that it was there every single night doing that was amazing. Was amazing.
I'll be curious to find out if it was there after we left as well.
Well, I heard from Rob that they stayed one extra night and they didn't see it that last night.
Oh, how interesting. Okay, well, that's a very interesting answer. Thank you.
Yeah, that was really, really, really interesting. And the fact that on a couple of the nights there were two of them. Did you think, or was your sense more that it was a drone or a helicopter? What did you think?
My guess was a drone, but because if it were a helicopter, we would probably have been able to see it with our eyes. I mean, it would have been big enough that somebody would have seen a light with our physical eyes, like it would have had a bigger light. So I assumed it was a drone. I mean, that was what people were saying, and that's kind of what I assumed.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. I don't know anything for sure.
Yeah, it was really fascinating. You know, the more I thought about it too, everyone was saying it has to be a drone because a helicopter pilot would get dizzy after all that time, but we don't really know how slow it was going and all those things. I'm not really sure. And I don't know, but it was definitely unusual.
Definitely unusual. And again, the fact that it was out of the visible spectrum, that we couldn't see it with our eyes, was even more interesting. You know, It makes me wonder what's happening other times we go out and skywatch that we don't know about.
Yeah, we don't have the benefit of infrared vision naturally, unfortunately. I think you were the one who tapped me on the shoulder about the heart cloud, right?
Actually, it was Ed, who was sitting right next to me, who, I don't know, he and I saw it about the same time, but I think he was the one who said, I think it's or maybe Costa said, I think it's a heart. Wow. But I remember seeing this weird looking shape. It was a very narrow angle and two straight lines of a cloud, and clouds don't make straight lines.
It was really weird, and it wasn't, the sky was crystal clear before we did our mantra.
Right.
And then afterwards, it disappeared fast. It was really intense. You know, someone came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder. I can't remember who, and says, I think it's a heart. I thought it was you, but I can't remember in the moment. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. You know, it just was very impactful for me personally. But that was a really, really cool event. There's so many cool sightings. The one big orange orb that we saw, you saw that one as well too, right?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was like the big orb.
But back to the heart cloud. What's interesting about that is, okay, in groups, I have repeatedly seen us dissolve cloud cover. Like because where we are, you know, in the San Francisco Bay Area, there's fog a fair amount, and we have to dissolve cloud cover. I mean, we've done it up at Mount Shasta, and we've done it here. So I know that can be done. We have never agglomerated a cloud out of nothing. That hasn't happened. So that was a pretty unusual experience. I mean, one other time when in a big group, we meditated a hole in a cloud ceiling, and then a heart-shaped cloud appeared in the middle of the hole we had meditated. But I don't think we meditated the cloud. And somebody in the circle got a telepathic message, "We love you." So I really do suspect that that heart was not created by us.
Yeah, I'm highly suspicious on a bunch of different levels about it. You know, it could have been created for us based on the mantra making a connection. I've found that mantras have a tendency, in my experience, to have some ground effects happen, and
really,
you know, smoke
like
and
what?
stuff. Well, you know, kind of portally, kind of ground, misty, smoky, kind of weird effects. Rama does it for long periods of time, and their mantras are loud and deep, and you feel it. You know, it's resonant across. That's what everyone who's been there has told me. And in my experiences with my group in at the farm, you know, we do it for at least 10 minutes, and we try to, you know, at first you're meek, you're kind of, you know, hesitant to or do whatever sound is harmonic to you. But the more you do it, the more, you know, you get comfortable in a group, and the more you do it with the group, and the louder it gets. And I think there's a resonance, there's a something, I don't understand it, but I think it's one of the powerful contact elements. And it may be, you know, hypnagogic, it could be, who knows what, you know, it could be psychokinesis, it could be, I don't know, but I'm very suspicious, you know, of, you know, unusual mists and smokes and clouds amidst heavy meditative moments. So I see that kind of phenomena again and again. And I think, like for us on that night, it was almost like a validation, like, okay, you guys are doing the right thing, do more and you'll see more. But I definitely got the message clear, you know, myself. What were you know, what were your thoughts?
About what specifically?
Did you think that maybe that the mantra might have contacted someone else that made it, or do you think?
You know, I don't know about the mantra specifically, but my suspicion is that we were in contact with some intelligence that created the cloud.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how it did it. I don't know how we contacted them. And I doubt we could have created a specific shape, especially, I mean, like, it would be different maybe if we had all agreed we were going to try to create a heart-shaped cloud in the sky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? But none of that happened. And
No.
it happened while, I mean, yes, we had been meditating, and we stopped, and it continued to be formed, because I remember seeing the two acute angle lines, you know, filled in with clouds, and then sort of the other end began to look like a heart.
Exactly.
As I looked at it.
Yeah, and that was after the mantra. The lines were there for the mantra, and then the rest filled in just after, and then disappeared.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So
very
that
good.
wasn't our intention. I mean, unless, yeah, that was not our conscious intention. Nobody ever talked about that.
No, but you know, what weirded me out is I got a picture from a couple people during my lecture with my heart always in the background, and on all the pictures it was me talking with the heart in the background. So from in my brain, you know, I kept putting the, you know, love, even though I'm a, you know, corny for love guy all the time. I kept getting that message the whole trip. I kept seeing hearts written in the sand. Someone else had drawn a heart in the sand when I saw it, and I kept seeing hearts everywhere. So for me, it was like a really cool, I think, you know, that's one of the big messages I took out. Now, we did a psychic class, and I bragged in a previous video for my channel that I had done okay in the class.
You did great. You did great.
Now, I don't want to brag for me, because it's very, it's harder to believe. But there were witnesses. You were a witness that I did.
And yes, you had picked out the color of the card before there was a card. Did you know they were even going to do a card?
I knew they were going to do something. And so it was easier to, project. And I know Rob and the group, so that kind of helped. And I drew that on the iPad ahead of time.
Right. That was impressive.
That was fun. That was
Yeah.
interesting. I think a lot of that stuff, as you know, as a psychic, is based on tapping into that field, that signal to noise ratio, and the more you work on it with impediments during difficult times, like I had a terrible backache that day. My kidney infection was, I think, starting and causing the backache. I'm sure you remember seeing me looking miserable.
I do. You looked horrible.
Oh, thank you.
Horrible for you. No, I mean.
Oh, you looked horrible, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, you really did. I was really worried about you. We were all really worried about you.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my God, he went to the hospital. Oh my God, is he okay?
Yeah, I was wearing 2 jackets in the desert.
No, that was not good.
Yeah.
That was good.
And then the 30 cups, I picked it correct the first time, right?
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was
really good.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that for the record, not to really brag, but to say that, the methods that we teach are, they're not BS, and psychic abilities and remote viewing abilities and all that stuff is not BS. You've been doing this for 30 years, you know it. But there's a lot of people who will listen to this and be skeptical about psychic abilities. What can you say to that, to the non-believer?
I actually talk about this a fair amount. And I'm going to do what I normally say, even though it's going to be a roundabout answer and getting to your question.
Please.
So the first thing people need to do is stop talking about intuition. Because intuition is a word that agglomerates together a whole bunch of things that are actually separate abilities. So for each physical sense, there is a clair or psychic sense. And I'm going to do them in order of most common to least common.
This is awesome.
So the most common one is for feeling, which is clairsentience. So all humans, we all have the sense of touch, and we all have, that gut feeling thing, often called proprioception.
Yes.
And proprioception sometimes can be emotional, and it can extend into a psychic ability. And that actually is the most common one. The next most common one is clairvoyance, for seeing. And there are 2 kinds of clairvoyance. The first one is an internal clairvoyance, which is getting images in your mind, we'll call it in your mind, of something that you are not physically looking at. The other one is external clairvoyance, which is seeing, let's say, auras around things, seeing energy fields. Maybe some people can see chakra energies, but some people can see beings that are not physically there with their eyes. I mean, that has happened to me. It's not common for me, but it has happened to me. People who see ghosts, that's external clairvoyance, because they're not physically there. Okay, next one, clairaudience, which is for hearing. People hear voices. They hear sounds sometimes that are not voices, like an animal calling or music that isn't actually there. The next one, the next one is clairolfaction, for smell. People sometimes will smell things that are not physically there. So people will say like, oh man, I can smell my grandfather's cigar, or I can smell my grandmother's perfume, and she's been gone for 20 years. And it's not all the time, but like certain things happen. It's like, oh, I can smell my grandmother's perfume. Or people who, I have a friend who sometimes leads like women's retreats, and they'll be contacting Mary, and then they'll all get the smell of flowers. Like every woman in the circle they'll smell different flowers, but they all smell flowers. So that's another way that can happen. The least common one is Clare Gustation, which is for taste. Very rarely somebody will say like, oh, I have this metallic taste in my mouth like it's blood, but obviously they don't have blood in their mouth. I talked to somebody recently, and I wish I could remember who it was, for whom this was very common, but that's the only person I've ever spoken to who would taste things regularly. Usually it's like once in a blue moon. So there are those 5. And then there is what I call the real sixth sense, which is telepathy, which also is channeling. And to me, telepathy is if you have an incarnate being, probably human, although you can do it with animals. And channeling is when you're doing it with a discarnate being, but they're the same mind-to-mind communication. And my experience with this, and I've talked to it quite a number of people about it who are telepaths. Maybe you have a different experience, because I suspect you're one too, is that there's something that you feel in your head, click, thunk, some shift, and then there's information there. People refer to it as, I got a download. And then your job is to figure out what the download is, like, because it came in as a chunk. The way I normally describe it is it's like somebody put a wadded up piece of newspaper in my head, and I have to like get it out and smooth out all the wrinkles, and then I have to read the newspaper to get the information. Like, it's there, but questionably accessible. And in the wrinkling, maybe some of it got smudged or whatever, but you get what you can. But there's a physical sensation of, oh, I now have information I didn't used to have.
Wonderful analogies. Wonderful analogies.
Yeah. And the next thing is play to your strengths. So if you are one of those people who gets gut feelings, start with that. And like anything else, like it's like you liken this to using a muscle, right? And talk about using all different muscles. Well, I would say start with the one that's already working and do more of it, and then it will expand out. So we have a little different philosophy there.
No, I agree with you completely. Especially when you're starting, you should start with that one thing. Don't try and do everything at once. It's not a good idea. I think you are 110% right. Start on that one thing and break open your connection,
Exactly. And just do more of it. And it's like anything else. Again, I liken this to the ability to run. Almost everybody has some. Some people are naturally great sprinters. Some people are naturally great milers. And there are people like me who are, one of the slowest humans on earth naturally. Okay. And if I practiced, I would get better.
Yes.
Right? So there's your natural ability, but no matter what level you start at, you can improve through practice. And it's just, if you're interested enough to practice, you'll practice.
Now, do you teach classes? If someone was wanting to take classes, would you teach them?
I have. And the most recent class I taught was actually online. And I was surprised, but I could do it because there was a platform that allowed me to, give whatever little lecture I was giving that day, and then allow my students to break into little tiny chat rooms. So there'd be two of them talking, so they'd be each be reading each other, and then we'd all come back together and they'd talk about it. Because again, there's only so much talking. It's really mostly giving people the opportunity to practice in a safe space.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, I do. I haven't lately, and I haven't got one scheduled now, but I could do it again. If there were demand, I could do it again.
Well, I've got so much to chat with you about because, for me as someone who's a practitioner and an explorer and a fellow, I consider myself just an enthralled student, that there's many angles to go in directions. And I hope in the future, after this interview, you would allow a future interview, when you have the time. But because I think our viewers really understand the connection of the powers of the subconscious and mind with ET contact. And I know you understand that connection very well. But you also have this understanding of, psi and the wide range of psi gifts and how they interrelate. And you've got a very, deep understanding of that. And I think that's very valuable. And I think it's really a key aspect of this whole phenomena in research. And most people kind of look past it. And that's usually at first, when they're first approaching the subject, but then they careen into the subject at one point or another. They have to if they go deep enough. So
you're saying that most people who come into contact work come at it from a very kind of nuts and bolts place, and then realize that, yes, we can have this, what I would call on the inner planes contact.
Yeah. For your opinion, did you think we made contact at Joshua Tree?
Sure.
No, I would say definitely too, but contact is in many different types in many different ways, and you have to be open and available and understand what's going on. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah.
Did you find it to be a meaningful experience? Aside from meeting all the awesome people, did you walk away with any extra nuggets or any like something that was maybe keying for you or resonating for you Um,
No, well, for me, what was the most fun was seeing other people in the group get their contact ahas, right? Like, oh, I can actually do this, or doing it in a different way, or whatever. You know, I mean, to me, that was like, it was gonna sound funny. It was a normal Saturday night out. You
yeah.
know, I'm used to this stuff happening around me. The cloud thing was really cool. Um, but the other, you know, the things showing up in the sky and whatever, like I'm used to that now. It sounds terrible, but and I
Well,
can't
you're an
say it's,
experiencer. If you've seen a lot of
yeah,
stuff, you're like me. You kind of, you know, it's almost becomes, you don't want to say normal. The abnormal becomes normal, but in a weird way, it kind of does, you know.
exactly. It's kind
Um,
of normal for me now, and you know, my great ambition is to dance with some star visitors.
wow, wouldn't
That's my
that be amazing?
ambition. If I can do that, you know, that's what I'm playing for.
That
And I
is
realize
awesome.
there's a lot more, you know, that's more important about it. But for
You know,
me, yeah,
wow, I love that. Dance with them. You know, dance is such a great way to express 1,000 different things at once. So it's
exactly.
an incredibly dense form of communication. So I love, that's probably the best idea for any form of communication I've ever heard. You know, I've heard other people saying, "Oh, I want to hug them or I want to kiss them or whatever," but I heard to hear dance with them. That is the best one. I think that is what I want to do as well too. You know, you should be
Okay.
able to laugh in the face of danger or good times, and you should be able to dance in the face of good times or bad. And
Well,
I
dance is expression. You know, it can be joy, it can be sadness, it can be everything in between. And, you know, you don't have to touch somebody to dance with them because that might be dangerous in some way to our physical being.
sure,
Um, but we can dance with each other no matter what. And you know,
absolutely.
and even if you haven't got telepathy, which God knows we should, um, you can still see each other move and move with each other, even if you're not doing, you know, doing telepathic stuff. So cool.
And it's a celebration of existence. It's just like kind of this wonderful celebration of existence and your physical shape and your thankfulness for it all. And wow, I think that's a great attitude, a great spirit, and a great message. Hollis, we're going to wrap it up here.
Okay.
I'd like to keep our video short, but I hope you would allow us to video again. Would you be amenable to such a thing? I think we're
Of
just touching.
course.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it was such, for me specifically, such a huge pleasure meeting you and connecting with you, and you know, showing just indisputably how much you cared, and just seeing how gifted you are as a psychic was mind blowing and very impressive. And just, you know, I love you, and I'm really
Me
appreciate
too.
you
Right back at you. All of
and,
you. Right back
and
at you.
your amazingly talented husband as well, Costa, who I'm going to be interviewing soon. Um,
Good.
well, much love, and thank you so much, Hollis. Is there any information you'd like to leave with our viewers as to if they wanted to contact you, what's the best way to contact you?
Sure. Unfortunately, right now my website is down because it was hacked. But if you want to get in touch with me, you can email me. My email is Hollis, HOLLIS, at 888 hyphen 4, and that's the number 4, hyphen Hollis, HOLLIS.com. As it happens, my toll-free phone number, if you are interested in a reading, is 888-4-HOLLIS, which works out to 888-446-5547. Look forward to hearing from people.
Awesome. Well, they couldn't find a more talented and awesome human to get those readings from. And I appreciate your time so much, Hollis. Please send love to the family. And it was such a pleasure meeting you, chatting with you today. And I'm really looking forward to our friendship in the future.
Me too.
Much love, Hollis. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.